Afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J More Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live on Facebook, drop your questions or comments for my guest or myself in the comment box. Today's guest is the legendary, and I say legendary, chef Jimmy Schmidt, three times James Beard Award recipient. His career goes beyond his groundbreaking restaurants, London Chop House, Rattlesnake Clubs, Adirondacks in DC, Morgan's in the desert. He is the co-founder of Chefs Collaborative, author, mad food scientist, and founder of JR Ranch Foods, producing grass-fed probiotic meats, beef with benefits, as they say. A career that started in the 70s to 50 years later, focusing on creating foods that love you back. A pioneer in America's culinary movement. Let's bring in Jimmy.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you, Dara.
It's good to see you, Jimmy, and congratulations on being a finalist at Fast Company Magazine's World Changing Ideas with your groundbreaking JR Ranch Foods grass-fed probiotic meats.
Thank
Let's
you.
talk let's talk a bit about probiotic meats. Then I want to get back to why you chose a career in food, the early days, James Beard, Chefs Collaborative, your chef friends, sports medicine, American cuisine. We will touch on a couple of those topics. But I know how proud you are of JR Ranch and what you've accomplished with the probiotic meats. So tell us a bit about JR Ranch Food, how it came to be, how long in research, and what exactly is NEUS5GC and why reduce it?
Okay, so in the beginning of all that, we are very honored by Fast Company to have a world-changing idea recognition. So the foundation of this research is that all the mammals across the world except humans, have a unique molecule in them called NEU5GC, which is spelled NEU5GC. Uh, The simple term for that word or that molecule is an amino sugar. So it's prevalent in all the mammals. So when we consume them, it gets into our blood system at a rate of about 6 million units per ounce, which is quite remarkable, although they're tiny. In our blood system, they trigger an autoimmune response of antibodies specifically to chase them. So we're dropping 6 million cars on the freeway and 6 million cops chasing them of the cardiovascular system.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the sound turned off here. I'm just shutting it down. Go ahead.
No problem. So when that happens, it causes inflammation and reduces oxygen and nutrient flow to your brain as well as your muscles that need it. So a friend of mine, Dr. Stephen Gundry, suggested that I try to chase and eliminate this molecule. So being a sugar, I figured as a cook, you could get something to eat it because everything likes sugar. So when you're make so when you're making bread, even as a frustrated baker, you get your yeast and your sugar going and you get this super culture going that causes, bread to rise and all that type of thing. I use that similar approach to find specific strains of probiotics and create a super culture and expose them to the raw meat, both in ground forms or in full muscles. And the lovely probiotics go in and consume the amino sugars, thus by eliminating them or greatly diminishing them from the meat. So when we eat the meat, we get none of those side effects of the inflammation. So we make products like meat sticks, as well as hot dogs and brats and full muscles like steaks and brisket and such like that. So the benefit of diminishing or reducing those amino sugars is lower inflammation and just a whole lot better life. Now, The other thing that this, amino sugars are is a super fuel. So our cells can use it as a fuel, just like the probiotics do. Typically, cancer loves it for malignant growth, a fuel for malignant growth. Other diseases such as COVID, malaria, and such really explode and really grow quickly with its presence. So it's important for inflammation, but equally important for how our body deals with certain types of chronic diseases. So at the end of the day, the meat tastes really delicious and it's better for you without any of these side effects.
Right. And I just want to read to people. Okay. It is pasture raised, harvested, and craft fabricated all in the USA. Angus breed specific, complete grass diet specific, farm specific. No antibiotics, no added growth hormones, no nitrates or nitrites ever, no MSG, gluten free. And I think people understand sort of probiotic,
Right.
that term. So uh, they can learn more at jrranchfoods.com. They can order from jrranchfoods.com. Now that's based in what, Bartonsville, Texas?
Yep, that's where we have a small ranch in Bartonsville, and we do the production of it in Dearborn, Michigan. And all of the cattle are US born, raised, harvested, and most importantly, they're all fresh meats that we're dealing with. Most of the other, meat stick manufacturers out there buy frozen meat from who knows where. This is, as a chef, this is one of the most loveliest products that I can make. So we're really excited about it.
And the research, I think it started officially the company 2023, 2024.
As a company, yes, we started a couple of years prior trying to chase it. The trick is to get these super cultures to do their goodness in a specific set of time and temperature windows by the USDA. So we are USDA approved and certified, that type of thing. So it took a while to get, the right party guys that would get in there and have a party and, consume all those little amino sugars in the proper time frame.
So, yeah, I want to tell people I downloaded your PDF, all 9 or 12 pages of it, and I went, after page one, I go, this is Greek to me because it was all scientific.
Right.
So I appreciate you explaining it in layman terms. And as I said, you can buy it online, steaks, brisket, hot dogs, bacon, beef sticks. I used to work for a meat snack manufacturer.
Okay, good.
So I sort of understand, we did beef jerky and pig's feet and hocks and things like that. Um, in your information, when the people get the product to prepare it, you suggest low temperature cooking. I'm curious what you mean by that.
Well, you can heat it up, in the oven. It comes cryovac and this type of thing for like the briskets and such at like 165, 170 degrees. That's all you need to do to bring it back up. We've already taken it to USDA temperatures for food safety, so it is technically completely cooked. It does retain its rosy color because of the culturing method actually preserves the myoglobin molecule so it doesn't denature. When it denatures, it turns brown. So brown meat really isn't better for you because the proteins are all being torn apart. Our process also preserves what's called the native structure, how the proteins are originally built, in the mammal, as well as all the minerals and such are maintained that way. Um, as an example, for the iron molecule, it maintains its original native form instead of being oxidated like what's on your car, which is called rust. So I think you'd rather have native iron in your blood system than rust.
That's
So we're really trying to, our methodology preserves those native molecules in their form, and hence better taste and natural coloration and this type of thing. It's really using the benefits of nature to work with us for better fuel. And the importance about grass-fed is that they're micronutrient collection devices. They can collect all of the phytochemicals that are in the plants, the grasses and such that they consume, and they can pass those phytochemicals over to us in the forms of flavonols and polyphenols that will enhance our life. So we need plants. They were here 400 million years before us, and they developed these phytochemicals to protect themselves from the environment. A plant can't run out of the sun when it gets too hot. It's stuck there. So all of these compounds are extremely, beneficial to our, mitochondria and all our cells. So this is how we collect them.
perfect. Now, you work with Dr. Gundy. Now, tell people if they don't know exactly who Dr. Gundy is, if you're on Facebook, he pops up on your feed at least once a day telling you what you should be eating, but you've been working with him for quite some time, done some special dinners. You've also worked with Dr. Mosier, and this goes
Yep.
back for Heart Healthy Cooking. You did a cookbook. Was it Alice Waters who joined you in that?
Alice Waters and Larry Forgione.
Larry Forgione.
And Dr. Moser was known for the Yale diet. He was a Yale cardiologist. I've done a lot of new product development for Atkins Nutrition. Dr. Atkins back in the day, still do a lot of fun things with them. But I met Dr. Stephen Gundry over 20 years ago, and we became really good friends. He's a brilliant cardiologist out of Loma Linda's, where he ran his center. I think he's credited at the youngest heart transplant ever, kind of thing. Brilliant guy, lovely person. His wife Penny is amazing, and he sent me chasing the new 5GC molecule, just like you said. What the heck is it, and where did it come from? Well, God made it, and it's been around forever, but he sent me to go to try to find it. But he is really attuned with natural medicine and using the biome and how the body works and such like that to improve your own health, which
Right.
is absolutely fabulous. And so he has like two business cards. One is like, if you want to listen to him about food, he can make your life better. Or here's the card if you don't listen and he needs to cut on you. So you can kind of to cut or not cut. So a lovely guy, and his research is amazing. We do have top secret, a new Dr. Gundry meat stick coming out that I'm making for him that has not only been cultured to diminish the amino sugars, but is being enhanced with omega-3s at the level of a fish. So if you don't like fish, you can have this lovely meat stick. This will be launched late this summer, top secret. So don't tell too many people, but
Yeah.
that's coming soon too. But I've done a number of products with Dr. Gundry too, which are absolutely lovely and of the highest standards.
Right. I just want to say a note out to my producer in studio. I have no laptop, so should any questions come in, pop in with it, Griffin, and just let us know. Should there be a question? Like I told you, there's always something going on here with the technology. All right. Legendary. Let's talk about growing up in Champaign, Illinois. Your family table, it's back in the 50s. What I read, I mean, I'm just going to tell everybody, you can go to jimmyschmidt.com and anything you want to know about Jimmy is on his website. I didn't have to ask for a biography because everything was there. Your dad liked to dabble, had like a little garden.
Right.
You
Well,
had
he was a farmer, but he came up through the Depression, so also worked for the University of Illinois. I was blessed. I was the youngest of five kids, And my mother was a homemaker, but when running parts of the farm and this type of thing, we ate from the farm. We went out and foraged for asparagus in the spring and black walnuts in the fall. And, we froze and canned all kinds of things all year long. And so I was very connected to the soil. I originally went to the University of Illinois and studied electrical engineering, to go down that path, but went to France for language credits. And as a poor student, but not dumb student, I took cooking classes and wine classes and got degrees from both culinary arts, a couple of different types over there, as well as a wine degree. And in France, I met Madeleine Camin, and she was incredible because she taught not just the recipe, but the science behind it, and also the history of it, of like why is the veal shank so important for ossobuco? Because all the Italian, serfs, for lack of peasants per se, that raised the cattle for the dukes and barons and such like that, they would deliver the cow, and then in return for raising the animal, they got the hoofs. And the hoofs became ossobuco, the shanks. So
Right.
ossobuco was like their Thanksgiving because the tomatoes were ripe and the rice was ready for the risotto, and all of these components were coming together. So she taught that whole history behind it that really is the richness beyond what you taste of how it came and understanding it.
I had the
And
pleasure of meeting her. She was in Baltimore. Um, this goes back a number of years, where I think three or four of the chefs in Baltimore had gone to Barringer Vineyards, where
yeah,
she was doing the classes for chefs.
right.
And just to let people know, wasn't easy.
No,
You had to fill out these forms. There was a lot of questions asked. And just to update people, Madeline uh, Kamen, I always say come on, but it's Kamen, um, wrote the book When French Women Cook, Making of a Cook. She
right.
had on PBS Madeline Cooks. And you actually, didn't you teach out at Behringer?
I
Behringer?
did. I was an assistant teacher from time to time when she needed a break. And, that was the School for American Chefs. So it was kind of like a doctorate program for chefs. And like these were fully qualified chefs that came in there that she put her grip on their cooking, sensibility, and really extracted the next level of their creativity. And yes, sometimes that was a painful process, but it was always rewarding. And I loved her. I worked for her and ran her restaurant Chez La Madeleine in Boston for a number of years. And we were blessed with being one of the two top restaurants in the country, along with Alice Waters, Chez Panisse in Berkeley at the time. And that was actually the fertilizer of new American cuisine being founded. And that was inspiration of these wonderful people.
Right. Absolutely. So the next restaurant was London Chop House in Detroit,
Hmm.
1978. And you're getting awards, their recognition. And then Rattlesnake Club in 1985, which was Denver. But that was around the time that you start getting the James Beard Awards. And I
Right.
know, just to let people know, James Beard Award just didn't pop up and happen. In reading, I didn't know this, that from it was initially Cook's Magazine.
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit that evolution. And I know that you knew James Beard, and I know that you worked with him at his house. So fill us in a bit.
Sure. So back in that same, early 80s period, I did know James Beard. I helped assist at his cooking school when I went to New York, which was usually monthly, with Lester Gruber, who was the founder of the London Chop House. And the London Chop House was this old kind of like 21 Club steakhouse of, Detroit dynasty. And Lester let me, loose in the kitchen. So we made our own wine and turned it into vinegar to be able to just call it chef's vinegar. We made all our breads, and we made confit and pickled tongues and parts and all of this back when it was just incredibly ripe time to do it. In 1984, Cook's Magazine, which was really the leading cooking magazine out on the market. And of course, there was Bon Appetit and Food and Wine that were glossier than Cook's Magazine, but Cook's Magazine was kind of this backbone with Christopher Kimball as the publisher and the leader. And Chris Kimball said, we want to start an award of who's who in American food, because it was the starting of the creation of or evolution of American cuisine using, incredible ingredients from America that are uniquely in our own backyard, applying techniques from around the world and manipulating these flavors to really show the bounty of this country, that we are, on par with the rest of the world. So the first 50 people that were elected who's who of cooking in America, there were a group of chefs, about 15 of which I was blessed to be one of them. And then also James Beard and Julia Child won it for being writers in this type of direction. And winemakers, Robert Mondavi, lots of these familiar iconic names, were also awarded in this type of line. So it went from winemaking to agriculture to writing, to chefs, of who was really making a difference. And so each year, Cook's Magazine would bring another 20 people by vote into this mix. It was back in the days of Studio 54 and the Palladium in New York. And, it was the superstar days. So it was fun. And we were young and such.
Right.
And that started that whole system. So after James Beard passed a couple years later, a group of people, including myself, rallied together to raise the funds to buy his house to start the James Beard Foundation. And that continued on nicely for a couple of years. And then Chris Kimball said, James Beard needs to be honored by having his own awards. And so he initiated the first awards, and ultimately Cook's Magazine Award became the James Beard Award. And so that's how that all fits together. So it was a great time of evolving people, and all the luminaries that were out there, we're all part of this wonderful story.
Right. Wolfgang Puck, Edna
Yep.
Lewis, Mark Miller, Alice Waters, Paul Prudhomme, Jeremiah Towers, Larry Forgio, Jonathan Waxman, Bradley Ogden, and I'm sure I miss Rick Bayless. I think he was
Yeah.
a little later.
A little later.
But yeah, but just how do I, this was my era of coming into food to explain to the audience. And these are names that I recognized and would, travel to go see and hear them talk. And then we went, into the 90s and things start developing. When did well, the 90s, I'm just clicking down here. The 90s, you were opening up a couple,
Well,
the Rattle
yeah,
Horse.
89 was, 88 was Rattlesnake Detroit, 89 was Atarax, in DC. And then I did a bunch of restaurants in Detroit. And then coming into around 2000, I branched out to the West Coast to, do a rattlesnake out there, which ultimately became Morgan's in the Desert. So, there's about 40 restaurants in the group through that period of time,
Ooh. So when did the Harvard Business School executive education come in? Where was
That
that?
that came in the late 90s when, I had a bunch of businesses running, all that we had bakeries and we had butcher shops and commissary, all this kind of stuff going on for the different restaurants in Detroit. And I needed to expand my business education. So through Young Presidents Organization, I went to Harvard for 4 years for executive training. So it's kind of like a squished master's of business degree, so we got all the homework for a year and we had to come in and then fight our case studies for 2 weeks and, get through the situation. So at that same time, I did my own business at a case study, and I realized that I wanted to focus on rattlesnakes and really food as medicine. That's when that started to emerge. And we founded InnoVitality and a couple of other companies that worked on delivering better nutrition. And really, that concept is I can't change what you want to eat. If you want to eat a Snickers bar, you still like a Snickers bar, but I can change what it does to you. So that's when
Okay.
we started doing products for other, licensing technology. So just a very simple point on the technology, I never used my engineering degree. Seems like a waste, but when I started playing with proteins, they're all positively charged. And when you put two same ends of a magnet together, they repel. Simple science. So that's what happens with all proteins, and similar fibers and such have their own nuances. I figured out a way to balance that isoelectrical charges because I look at the world through electrons, and I got them to form permanent bonds. So I can make, you know, higher nutrition in breads, in dough-based products, in sugar wafers, and, wafers without the sugar, but that concept, and
Right.
cookies, and, protein-based nougat cores for a Snicker. So that's where all of that came out of, is that kind of philosophy.
What I want to tell people is as you entered the 90s, early on when you were in college, you worked as a mechanic and you liked to race cars.
Yep.
And for 10 years, you were working with Le Mans Corvette
Yep.
and nutritional items for the drivers. And you created Jimmy's Juice, or what you called Life Force 5, for this crew that it was tremendous. It was almost like 3 days pre, during the race, and after to keep them going. And you also crewed on an ocean racing yacht too.
Yep. I like to
During
race. Yeah, so it started with ocean racing yachts and such like that. And that, when you're out on the water, the sun just moves across the sky. So you have no sense of time. So the importance of what you're eating at a certain type of day sets your body clock. So that was the start of the research. When I moved over to GM for, the car racing at Le Mans, you get up really early Saturday morning. It's in France, so they're not going to start racing until after they've had lunch and a couple of bottles of wine at 4 in the afternoon, and then they race to the following 4 in the afternoon. So your body clock gets all messed up by all that noise and all this type of situation. So we delivered meals to the pit, and they're really tiny meals every couple hours, so that you could see the passing of time, because there's no other evidence other than it's light out or dark out that time is passing. And that really, and we also had the ability that we could test every person in a 200-man crew, their blood sugar every hour, so we could see where they were. So the foods we fed them stabilized their blood sugar, and they could perform at this higher level, and no brain fade, and win. So we had a great result. Out of 24 possible podium positions, we took 22 in the 12 years we ran the race. So it was, food is fuel, and our bodies are more important than the millions of dollars worth of fuel that they put in those cars. But
right.
I like to go fast. I love speed.
Well, it isn't unusual considering your past of racing cars as a teenager that, you must have gone, wow.
I was in love.
I'm sure you were.
Yeah.
Um, I want to touch on Chef's Collaborative, which
Okay.
is something that I knew about. You were the founding chairman, Larry Forgione. It advanced sustainable food choices for the next century. That was the goal. And I think it was drafted in 93 and came to fruition maybe in 2000. Tell us a little bit more about the Chef's Collaborative.
Well, Chefs Collaborative was a very uh, early pioneering leading organization of pulling chefs together for the common purpose of, you know, good food is an inherent human right, not a privilege. So, you know, if you got a lot of money, you can go to fancy restaurants and all kinds of stuff like that and eat well, but everybody should be eating well. And by eating well, having great nutrition and good wholesome foods, it affects your body and your life. And you know, your productivity, your happiness, and what you can expect out of life. So it is still that inherent fact. Now, in COVID kind of slowed down the whole, you know, routine with Chefs Collaborative, and I foresee a revitalization of it in the near future. But that whole, you know, common goals and such. And we were able to, you know, with our, you know, charter of principles and such like that, affect Congress, make some movement on the food bills. We worked on the lunch program back in the Clinton days. So we did make some positive gains, and I'd like to see more in the future.
You know, food as medicine is really coming to the forefront. Corby Coomer um, has food and medicine at the Aspen Institute. So
Yeah,
they're
that's it.
very, very core.
Yeah, food as medicine is where it's at as far as I'm concerned. Now, to understand it, and I work on it with a group for mitochondria specific research, um, but there are a lot of these phytochemicals in food that we were talking about before that are plant based that uh, it starts with good ingredients, but it definitely requires culinary skill to heat them, and heating is absolutely essential to make them bioavailable. And by bioavailable means that you can get it in your body, it can be absorbed and create a positive effect. So you can augment many different diseases and even things like cardiovascular problems and such like that with your food choices, as well as the, you know, foods of medicine of how they're prepared to make these ingredients bioavailable. One of the largest proponents of that is Dr. Stephen Gundry and the health of the biome, and you know, making sure what you eat, you know, supports that. So that's what the forefront is. That's where I'm working right now, is the whole food as medicine things. Now, mind you, this is straight out decadently delicious. It's just not going to spike your blood sugar and send you into cardiac failure. You know, so we're able to deliver everything you want out of your food and having a glass of wine. And the dinners I did with Dr. Gundry, they would slap them with all these monitors if you wanted, and you would have this 5 course decadent meal. The last one I did with Nancy Silverton, you know, and it's state of the art. And you leave there going, I've never felt so good in my life. And not just from your, you know, eating pleasures, but what it's doing to your body. So there is an answer there.
Right. All right. Your career is mammoth, and I just touched lightly on everything. But hopefully, people can go back and learn more. JimmySchmidt.com, everything you want to know about Jimmy. Maybe not everything, but
Not everything.
99%. JimmySchmidt.com, his website. And for the meat, for the probiotic grass-fed meats, you go to jrranchfoods.com, and that should be coming up in the comment section. I can't see it. Computers crash. That's
Yeah,
done. But remind everybody that we come to my final questions. I know you've been waiting with a bated breath for these.
absolutely. Which one is it going to be?
Okay, if you wake up tomorrow morning with a new talent, what would it be?
Oh, to be able to foresee the future, but I'm not sure I can do that. Um, Probably a deeper understanding of how molecular structures work, just to get that next step. We can see so far into that, you know, molecular structure, that there's inherent values underneath it that have a system and pattern that would be fun to be able to tap, not only for nutrition, but for flavor and for empowering the world forward.
Right. All right. What's the best bite you've had all week?
Funny enough, I've been experimenting with really slow cooking, sous vide, with it's our cultured, not on the market yet, cultured Wagyu short rib, which is actually from the chuck, so it's a boneless one, and it's also called the Denver cut too. Um, and slow cooking it for 48 hours, and it absolutely it doesn't go through denaturing. It stays beautifully pink, and it's absolutely melt in your mouth. Yet it has texture. It's not mush. So that's probably I'm pretty excited about that. I'm got
Okay,
to dial in maybe a degree of temperature here or there, but I'm getting pretty close.
pretty close. Uh, your ultimate culinary fail.
I fail all the time. So there's been ones that I've broken mixers in factories making composites by adding the proteins too quickly. That's probably the best one. Shearing off some giant 2,000 pound batch of dough and breaking a $150,000 machine. That's probably my best. Although I still say it's not my fault, but that's it. That's kind of the situation. So with these protein bondings, if you mix them together, they're beautiful. The greatest French bread in the world you ever have, or a great pizza dough. If you mix them in a different situation, you'll have the most organic, edible driveway patch that you'll ever have too, and it will outlast your asphalt. So we try
Okay,
to keep it in the friendly form.
okay. What are two must in your refrigerator?
Well, typically my wife and I, Joe Marie, love champagne and oysters. So, and I've made a lot of dishes of oysters poached in champagne, but we like the oysters in lots of different ways, but the champagne also always very chilled.
I could go for both of those. So
Good.
I
Come on
love
over.
to be right there. By the way, you're up north. Where are you living now?
In Detroit, Grosse Pointe, Michigan, right outside of Detroit.
Okay, Grosse Pointe. Wasn't there a movie called Grosse Pointe?
Yeah, there is. Grosse Pointe, something. Yeah,
Yeah.
there is.
Okay. If you wake up tomorrow morning, what? Well, I think I already asked you the new talent.
Yeah.
Um, if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Listen to your gut, listen to your inner self more. Stay
Okay.
true to yourself.
This one I didn't send in a on the list, but it just seemed perfect for you. What do you want to be when you grow up?
A race car driver. That's it. If I had to go
Okay.
back to 18, I'd be like, all right, get back up when you crash your motorcycle and get back out there. So,
Okay.
you're going to crash a lot in life, but you just got to get back up. That's what it's all about because you learn more from the crashes than you do from winning,
Right.
and that's what it's about.
All right. Jimmy, what didn't I ask you that I probably should have?
Um, that's a very good question. I think you covered a lot of territory. I think that um, I've always tried to continue to improve, the old constant and never-ending improvement. And I think that the world is a very tasty basket out there, and you got to keep pushing the envelope. And I've invented a lot of stuff over the course of time, but the best things I've invented improve your life beyond just your taste buds. And I think that we're coming into a new decades of nutritional taste and value growth. We'll nourish our minds, but also nourish our palates. So that's what I'm really excited about. The future is going to be tasty.
Tasty. Yes. All right. Jimmy, thank you so much for responding to my lowly request Do you want to do a podcast? It's been a joy to get to know you. I've, knew of you, but now I've gotten to know you. I thank you so much.
Thank
Continued
you.
success. And if I ever can be assistance, let me know. And I have a couple announcements to make. I thank you again. And Griffin will take you out, or you can just
Okay.
pop out on your own. Thank
Dara,
you.
thank you so much for inviting me. I'm honored to be here.
Oh, thank you. All right. Where are my notes here? Okay, I have it. Okay, everyone. Here I am. Next week's guest, which will be show number 288, will be Lex Mills, co-founder of Stursy Zero Proof Cocktails. It's a startup. It's got a great story, so do tune in, mouth work. Okay, if you need to reach me, you can reach me at Dara Cooks on Instagram at Dara Cooks and on Facebook, The Food Enthusiast. Take a moment to go back in the Food Enthusiast archives at jmoreliving.com. You will find videos under the food category drop down, The Food Enthusiast. Also, while you're there, sign up for the free J More Living bi-weekly food newsletter with stories, restaurant news, videos, and recipes. We truly appreciate it when you share our show with friends and family. May your plates always, always remain full. I hope to see you next Thursday.